Today we're going to take a look at field stripping the old 1911 pistol. This is my granddaughter's new pistol. She's sitting close at hand. You're not going to see her in this video, but I'm going to teach her this course while she's standing close by watching, and I thought it'd be good for somebody else to get this same information. This is how I was taught in the Navy back in 1979, how to field strip the 1911 pistol. The pistol that you see in front of you is a TSOS. It is a reproduction of the Remington Rand built from 1943 to 1945, and TSOS did an excellent job. So as they say, without further ado, let's go ahead and do a field strip. And the very first thing you want to do when you're going to work on a pistol is make sure the pistol is clear. Now, please, to all my friends, people, especially people that have dealt with guns a lot, be very careful that you don't overlook this. Make sure the gun is clear. So what I like to do on that is, you notice I've got the hammer to the rear, the safety's on. That's the way all my guns lay around in my home or in my holster. Always cocked and locked. That's the safest way that you can have a 1911, because you've got grip safety, thumb safety, and the trigger is covered by leather usually, or Cadex. So let's go ahead and double check this, make sure it's clear. We'll start by pushing the magazine release button right here. Out comes the mag. The mag is empty. Never fall for the saying, okay, the gun is clear now, because it could have a live round in the chamber, which is the throat of the barrel right here. So let's go ahead and take the gun and rack it open carefully. Fingers locked like that. Double check. Now we'll go ahead and lock it to the rear like this. Holding up on the slide stop, we're going to put that little tab into this little notch. So we pull it to the rear carefully and lock it like that. Now we stand it up. We're going to do a quick pinky check. We're going to pretend like it's dark outside. Here comes the pinky. Don't worry about breaking your finger, because you are locked right there. As long as you don't touch that control, you'll never have an issue. So, you drank too much NyQuil, you work 2 shifts, whatever the case may be, a pinky will never lie to you. If you can put your pinky in a hole, then you know that chamber's empty. You also visually check, put your eye down to it, and look. Say, well, you could do just one and not the other. It's best to do both. Wolf does make an ammo. They did years ago that the back of the shell, the whole case of the shell, was a dark green, and just at a glance you might not see that if your extractor claw missed it, didn't pick it up. So it's always best to visually check and pinky check. Now, some people will freak out over that, but Mr. Gaston Glock has that right in his owner's manual to physically check your Glock. This is not a Glock, but he teaches that. And I've seen a lot of Navy SEALs and senior people that are around guns their whole life. They trust their pinky, and so do I. So we've got that done. Let's go ahead and let it go forward again. We lower the slide stop, let it go forward. We milked it so it went forward slowly. We will go ahead and lock the safety back on, and what that does is it keeps the gun safe, but it also keeps the slide from moving. The next step we want to do is to be able to take the spring pressure off by removing this plug. There's a plug right here. This plug is what is holding the recoil spring in the gun, keeps it from coming out. So we want to be able to hold down on that plug and then rotate the barrel bushing, which is this piece, clockwise until we get it clear. So I hold it down, take the barrel bushing, move it out of the way, slowly let that come up, and there is your plug that goes over the spring. And you'll hear it called different names, but it's a recoil plug that covers that up like that, or a recoil cap goes over the spring. So we'll lay that aside. Got him right there. Now all that's free. I'm going to go ahead and let's take this barrel bushing out. We'll rotate it. Since we're right here handy, rotate it the other way. Get the spring out of the way. And right along in there somewhere, there's a notch cut in the slide that lets you take that out. Now see, it has a little tab right there. That has a notch cut right there in the slide. So that's how you know you're in the right place, is by that notch. So if it's there, it can go back in. If it's over here, that's all the way to the right or all the way clockwise. That's where you use to go in and out with pieces like the plug itself. But to take the barrel bushing out, again in review, we're going counterclockwise now, getting it over here, and you feel for it, start to pick up on the barrel bushing, and just about the time you think you can't get it, you'll feel it move, and out you go, okay? So now there's the barrel bushing right there. I'm gonna overemphasize these names. The next step for my granddaughter to learn, go ahead and take your safety off, because we now need to move the slide. There is a target area that we're looking for here, and that is this small half moon notch right there, and the tip of this slide stop. Those have to be aligned exact. When you get those aligned exact, the other side of this slide stop is sticking out right here. That's what you're going to push with your finger to get that to come out. So we'll back this off, and we'll line up the notch on the slide. Watch it carefully. This is a slide in motion going rearward. We get that lined up, the slide stop with the small notch, and then I'm going to push on that right there. We push on that and wiggle this a little bit sometimes if it gives you trouble, and out comes the slide stop. Now that is so precise that if you're off by the least amount, it's not going to come out. So be patient with it. You're not in a rush with this. This is not a combat situation, granddaughter. So we lay that aside. Now at that point, we can break this gun into its two major halves. We can take the slide off the top. Watch the slide come off the frame. This is not a receiver. People call this a receiver. This is a lower frame and an upper slide. So off it comes. We don't need to take anything else off of that, so we can lay it aside. We'll just lay it like that for now. I'm trying to keep a focal point where you can see everything. And there's our slide. So we'll lay the slide over on his back side, and we're going to go ahead and take out this nice little recoil spring and guide rod. Mine are unitized because I've got a factory, not a factory spring, but a Wolf custom spring in here. It's a variable rate, 12-pound spring for granddaughters since I'm shooting light loads. But Wolf is very wise. They make these coil up tight enough that they stay together as a unit. So we will leave it as such. Lay that aside. Now the barrel, when it's laid in there, it's got some square lugs on it, and there are square notches in this slide, and that's how the 1911 is so accurate and keeps the slide locked with the barrel. So we lift up on this little link right here. You can lift up on that link, and that breaks those two apart, and then start sliding. Now the link, obviously if it's up like that, it will not go out very well. Let's see if it will. I was wrong, it will go out. So like that, look at that. I like to drive, always dropped it down, but I think on some guns it may get hung up. So we'll put it down like that. Out you go, and now your barrel is clear. So there's your strip slide. Here's your barrel. There's the barrel link. The pin for that holds that in there is a pressed in pin. So you'd either have to have a special punch to drive that out or a hydraulic press. Sometimes it'll have to be to that degree, but we do not need to take that link out. So this is what's called field strip. Let's review our parts. There's my slide. Slide is the top piece. Here is the barrel. Here is the lower portion, which is called the frame on a 1911. Now, I'm not talking down to you. Realize this video is for brand new beginners, and in this case, this is my granddaughter's gun, and she's sitting there watching what I'm doing. And let's review our small pieces again. We'll move this over just a little bit, like that. Small pieces. We have the recoil spring. We have the recoil spring guide rod. It does have a half moon that lets it lay on the barrel when you put it in the gun. And one thing I want to review with you on these springs, this is important to know, whether it's a factory Colt spring, a TSA spring, or a Wolf aftermarket, these will always have a raw end where the machine just cut the spring off. And you may not be able to see that. I hope you can, but it's just a cut off end. And the other end of this, you have to kind of corkscrew this off to get it off. The other end is the finish end, where they finish that off and put it tight to the other coil. The finished end is the one that you always want to put on your guide rod. And the reason is that if you leave a rough or raw end hanging out, it can trace and get into things in your gun and start making your gun run rough. So, well, how does this keep from running rough? Well, it's inside this nice little cap right here, this plug, recoil spring plug. So that keeps it protected and safe while it's running down the road, and there are no issues with that. Just a nice feature to know. So what else have we got? Well, we have a barrel bushing, and this does a lot of things. It holds the barrel in, it holds that plug in, holds the spring in with the plug, but it also is basically the adapter that tightens up your tolerances on this gun. And if you have a gun that won't shoot a very good group, there are many companies that make this in an aftermarket. You can get it from Wilson Combat, you can get it from Ed Brown or EGW, Evolution Gunworks. They make these in stainless. You can get them in oversized, fatter here on the front flange, which I have some of those. But some of them are drop-in and some of them are what we call gunsmith fitting. But this barrel bushing makes it where this barrel is not flopping around inside the slide. You wouldn't want that. That gun would shoot a terrible group at 25 yards. So the bushing, when you put that in there, it basically is like an adapter bushing. If you've ever seen any conduit or piping, sometimes you'll have an adapter where you're running a 3/4 inch in and you need to adapt over to a 1/2 inch. That's the purpose of a bushing. It allows a large hole and a smaller post, in this case a barrel, to be able to get along with each other and work together good. So John Moses Browning, very wise on that, very wise the way he did that. He was an absolute genius when it comes to building guns. His design is still with us 100 years later, and there are still companies all over the world. Over in Israel, they got a company called Bull Armory, and they build some absolute beautiful 1911 pistols. And TSOS now in Turkey is building these. This is, boy, I mean, almost an exact copy of the old GI gun that I carried in the Navy, built by Remington Rand. The last piece I did not forget is the slide stop. And that's a very cool piece too, because it locks the barrel into the lower frame of the gun with this hole right here. You can see how that goes. And then the link right here is what ties that together and keeps it from getting away. It also, that link is what allows this tilting barrel mechanism to work properly. So when you fire that gun and it is getting ready to load the next round in, it comes to the rear and it lets that tilt like that, so that when your magazine is there getting ready to put the next round in it, instead of trying to go in that way, see how the angle is on that? You wouldn't want a bullet to come out at an angle trying to go into something at 0 degree angle. You'd want this to tilt a little bit, so when it shoots in there, it has an easier way to go. So that's one of the reasons that he came up with the Browning. Of course, this would be like that, but when you're firing the gun, you can see it locked up, and then when it comes back, it tilts down like that. So Browning tilting barrel mechanism. And that is famous worldwide. There's a lot of companies, Glock, XD, SIG, FN. There's a lot of companies that have copied this tilting barrel mechanism. Some of them don't have a link, but they'll have a locking block that the barrel rides on, but the principle is still the same. So now you know how to do a breakdown, a field strip. And the next step that you would do, of course, is to go ahead and spray some good cleaner on these parts and then finish up with some oil. I like to put a thin coat of grease on my barrel where it goes through that barrel bushing. Makes it run good and smooth. Sometimes I put a little coat of grease here where the barrel locks up into the slide, so that can lock and unlock good. I like to drip down a little bit of oil in these this disconnector here, down between the hammer and the frame, and oil up the safety here. Make sure that's oiled. Now, another tip is, when you have the gun like this, even though this hammer and trigger are fully functional, Don't pull your trigger, because that hammer won't have anything to absorb the energy from it, and it's going to slam into your frame needlessly. So leave that as is and prepare for reassembly. So that's the next step. We will take a short coffee break, and then we will reassemble the gun. All right, for the granddaughter and for anybody that is not used to this wonderful pistol, a 1911 design, most popular pistol in the world, we are now going to put this back together. So we're going to break it into its two parts, which is the upper slide and the lower frame. Let's take the lower frame out of the picture for right now, totally out of the picture, and let's build this up a fully functional slide. So we'll start with a slide like that. Here's my focal point. If you wonder what that black tape is for, that's to keep me straight so I don't get out of the camera's range of view. I'm bad about that. So let's see if we can take this barrel and put it in that way. No, it will not go. So that takes that out of the question. Let's take the barrel and go back in just like we put it in and bring it to the rear. Now, I want to show you something before we get this all put together. Notice these little locking lugs. The machinist cut a track, female track, cut another female track, and left two male lugs sticking up right there. And there's corresponding notches inside the slide that those lock into. So if you ever start pulling on your barrel and you feel like it's stuck, that's what's causing that. You can lift up on your ring right here, this pivoting ring right here, that link, pivoting link, and that will let you get out of there. So we'll put it back in all the way. You can flip it over and see how far it goes. That lets you know you're in what's called in battery, where this barrel is as far back as it can go on the slide. So that's step one, as they say. And here's the barrel bushing. Let's go ahead and get it in there. And you can just play with this and try and kind of get used to this. That's a lot of fun. So try it that way. You'll notice there is no notch there. If you look down in there, you can kind of see the notch. So we tried on this side. No, we go all the way on this side and look, it drops right in, okay? So with it to your right, it will drop in, and then swing it clockwise as far as you can go. That leaves this hole open, ready for business. So the next step is, let's go ahead and get this nice recoil spring. This is what operates your slide under recoil. When the gun fires, this is what absorbs the energy of the slide and then puts the next round back into the gun. This does have a half moon cutout right there, you can clearly see, and that has to fit against the barrel. So I like to hold mine like that, leave the little half moon facing 6 o'clock down, and then we just slide that spring through there like that, and out she goes, and then we're in good shape. Now, some people like to take this link and try to put it in certain positions. I've never had a lot of luck with that, because at the end you gotta wiggle it around anyway. So there's that. Okay, slide stop, we're gonna use that to hold it all together. This will be the very last thing we put in because it was the first thing we took out. So we're working in reverse order. Now we bring our frame, not a receiver, we bring our frame over here, and let's try this way just for fun, okay? Let's just leave that where it's at. It seems to be happy resting right there. We will put the track. This has male studs and female slots. We'll put those together like that and make sure they fit good. And then start sliding. Look how easy that goes. I mean, a child can do this, and a child will be doing this. So now we want to get that little bitty half moon lined up with the square hole there. Get that lined up. And then start looking. That barrel bushing moved on me a little bit. We moved him back. He's trying to misbehave a little bit. That happens. Barrel bushing, stop that. Tries to grab the spring. All right, now I wiggle the barrel. It may be hard to see on camera, but I wiggle the barrel and I pull that barrel back and forth and look for that nice little pivoting link, the little drop down link. Once I can see a good clear hole in there, I'm looking for my slide stop piece. There it is, slide stop. I'm going to put that post right through the hole. Boom, done, okay? So make sure that'll go. Sometimes I like to even do this, pull the slide forward and make sure it doesn't come off the gun. That just lets me know I actually nailed it. I didn't nail behind it, okay? That's a trick of the trade. I've been doing that for years. Now, I put my little half moon notch right over that square, and you gotta be precise on that. Here's the next step I'm gonna show you how to do. This is a little girl, my little homily granddaughter. She needs to know this. Do not take a stab at this and try to push that down in that hole real hard and then slide that across the face of your slide and make a big, ugly, dumb scratch across there. That's a beginner scratch, man, and they'll ruin a gun. They'll take a gun, beautiful coat with nice blued finish, or in this case, we've got just parkerized finish. But if you hit that, sometimes that right there is sharp on the edge and it'll scratch across that. That's dumb. Don't do that. Or they'll start to push down that and not control it, and they'll go scratch, and they'll scratch the frame of the gun. So neither one of those are good things to do. What I do is I double check visually, make sure that little half moon is lined up. I pull this up where it's going to go. I put these two fingers, or these two fingers, whichever one you like, and capture that thing where it cannot go up and it cannot go down. See that? I got it captured. Wiggle around and feel for that little plunger pin. I put my 5,000-pound hydraulic thumb on it. Wiggle, wiggle up and down and push down with that. And when you get it, you got to make sure your notch is right. When you get it in there, it will go right into the gun all the way. Straight down. You don't want it to pivot up. You don't want it to pivot down. So if it doesn't go on you, it means that you need to move the slide forward or aft a few thousandths of an inch. See, John Moses Brown was very wise on that, because now with this gun running down the road, this cannot come out. The only place that can come out is when that half moon is lined up, just like that. Then and only then can you push that out. See, just a little bit off and it won't come out. See that? All right, he's back in. Now watch this. I moved just a little bit. Can't get it out. It's that precise. And some high-end guns that people spend big money on, they're so tight it's almost impossible to get it in there. Sometimes you may even have to take a chopstick, not a chopstick, but like a skewering stick or a small tweaker, like a real fine screwdriver, and go down there and push this plunger in the plunger tube, push it back out of the way, and help yourself on that. But this is a very basic GI gun, so we're good to go. So now we pull our slide forward. Don't get crazy, just pull it forward. Stand the gun up. This is where we put the thumb safety back on. All that does is lock my slide so it doesn't wiggle around any. So now look at that. So easy, man. We take this nice plug. This is a recoil spring plug. I'm giving you the proper names for these. Slide that right over that spring, and this is where you try not to hit yourself in the eye, okay? So take control of this piece, your barrel bushing. You're ready to rotate it counterclockwise, and you want this to go down. So here's what I do, all right? This is the way I do it. I get this with my thumb, my 5,000-pound hydraulic thumb. I make sure everything's squared away. I start pushing it down. I go past zero, flush, and I grab that edge of that plug because it's got a machine step in it. Then I get me another grip, maybe take a couple of coffee breaks, another grip, push it down again, and go past. This time I've got it. There's no way to get away. And then push slowly with this. See what I'm doing until you hear a click. Listen carefully. Hear the click? Once that pops back up and goes into that nice half moon curve there, you're good to go. So next step, take your safety off. Point the gun in the safe direction, cycle, cycle, cycle. Make sure it still feels like a smooth 1911. Now we want to do some safety checks. Safety check number 1, put the thumb safety on, okay? Make the grip safety go down. Grip safety's down, pull the trigger. That hammer should not move. That means your thumb safety worked properly, okay? Pull it hard. No snowflakes here. We got to do everything solid by the book. Next safety we want to check is the grip safeties. To do that, we get the thumb safety out of the picture. He is now off, down and off, ready to shoot. So I'm not going to grip the grip safety, but I am going to pull the trigger. Pulling the trigger like this. Trigger pull, 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 and the hammer did not move. So that means the grip safety is good. Now I push the grip safety down about halfway to check it to see how sensitive it is. And it worked good at a halfway point. That's well tuned. The last safety test that I like to do is make sure that the gun does not have hammer follow. Hammer follow means the 1911 can go into a condition where it shoots as a fully automatic weapon. So how could that happen? Somebody gets in the back of this and they start messing with that sear spring, and they want a real light trigger, and they start bending that spring, and they get down to about a 1.5 pound trigger, and that is too low on this gun. So what happens is that hammer will follow the slide when it's in motion, and it will go bang, 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 bang. It'll shoot all 7 shots out of that mag, plus the one in the chamber too. So 8 rounds could be fired all in one pull of the trigger. We don't want that. Here's how we test and make sure you do not have hammer follow. We hold the gun like this, hold the trigger down, all the way down, trigger's down, and rack the slide to the rear, and let it go forward. Look what happened to the hammer. The hammer stayed to the rear because I wasn't in a reset mode. Now if I let it go and reset, now it's ready to shoot. See that? So let's try it again. Hold the trigger in hard, rack the slide again, rack the slide again. Still holding the trigger, the hammer stayed put. Now when I let off, everything resets. The gun is in a normal condition like that. What's the last step you do before you holster it? Can anybody answer that? Hammers to the rear. One's in the chamber, we're pretending. And the mag's in and it's fully loaded. What's the last step right before you holster it? You would push that thumb safety up. That's the way that gun is designed to run, just like that. I have a lady almost every week in Walmart or Lowe's or a restaurant that ask me when they see this gun in my holster. Of course, they're looking at this side of it, and they see that hammer. They walk right up to me, and especially a polite older woman, and she'll say, "Sir, did you know that your hammer is cocked?" And the reason they say that is because they've seen a lot of movies, and they are, maybe if they're really a lot older, they're used to revolvers, and they know nobody in their right mind would be carrying a gun with the hammer cocked on a revolver in a holster, because you just bump it, you know, on a hair trigger, and it might fall, might shoot a hole through your holster and through your foot. So I don't pull the gun out, but I tell them, listen, this was designed by Mr. John Moses Browning, and he incorporated a grip safety, which is great. You have to be gripping the gun for it to fire. He also built this wonderful thumb safety / slide lock. It does both of those functions. And the only way that can be put on, which is up, is for that hammer to be to the rear. Now watch this. You won't believe this. I'm going to let this dry fire. Here we go, dry firing. All right, so you got the gun like that, and you try to put the safety on, okay? The hammer's down. Watch this. Watch carefully. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Maybe I need to pull harder. Nope. Nope. No. Thumb safety. The safety here, the thumb safety, will not go on until that hammer's to the rear. So what does that mean? Well, it means you're a lot readier to shoot the gun. Nobody has time to fiddle around with trying to cock a hammer back on a gun if you're drawing it out to save your own life or your loved one's life. So you put it cocked and locked. And now let's review what steps will be involved with firing this gun. This gun is in the holster like that, okay? Let's see how many steps. Let's see how safe a 1911 is. You're riding on your horse across the prairie. You're riding up and down big ridges, maybe down the edge of a mountain, and you're really slamming stuff, and you got that gun in the holster on the horse. Maybe you're on the farm, you're on a four-wheeler, you're jumping over logs, you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. That gun is flopping around the holster. Is it safe? Yes. And all of a sudden, you run up on a grizzly bear and he's going to eat you alive, okay? It's just a scenario. Maybe you're not going to shoot him. You just shoot his large toenail off. But here's what you'd have to do to shoot this gun. Ready? Here we go. First, you have to clear leather, okay? When you clear leather, that gets the trigger ready to go into work. You got to make a good grip on the gun. You got to push the thumb safety down, and you got to pull the trigger. So 4 individual things have to happen in series. Clear leather, make the grip safety, take the thumb safety down, and pull the trigger. So say, is that a safe gun? One of the safest guns in the world. It's one of the safest guns in the world. 2 mechanical safeties, and then the trigger is covered with your holster, and then your brain has to operate the last safety of all, which is don't put your finger in that hole and touch that bang switch until you are ready to shoot that gun. So the bear comes up, and you say, I don't want to kill this bear today. He looks like a cute little bear. Then you shoot right in front of his foot, and he goes, ow, and he runs away. So that was the end of that story. That bear is Papa Bear. He gets to go be back with his family. So that's for my granddaughter. You don't always, just because you have a gun, that doesn't mean you have to kill everything, okay? For the most part, this is going to be a practice gun for her to learn about shooting, and it will be a lot of target work done with this gun. Let's go ahead and put it as it shall be. Hammer back, safety on, and you're good to go like that. Now, once you get used to a 1911, your draw comes out of the holster and you're ready to shoot. That thumb right there is going to ride down on that safety and rest right there. This other thumb is going to go out here and find this nice little flat pad that is your slide stop, and you rest right there, and that makes sure that you don't interfere with that slide while it's in motion. So 2 thumbs forward, 1 stacked on top of the other, and now when you go to take the safety off, it's just a matter of going down. You got your sights on target, it goes off. As you're finding your target, boom, it's off. You fire the shot, boom, boom, boom. It's gonna leave the hammer to the rear. And then you say, all right, ready to holster. What's the next step? Safety goes on, holster the gun, and you're good to go. So I hope you enjoy this video. I know it's simple. I know 100 other men have already done this, but maybe I gave you a little food for thought. And also, like I say, I built this video for my granddaughter. This is her pistol. The way she qualified with this is I got an old metal filing cabinet out in the yard, and it's a wide one, and it's got 4 drawers on it. And I gave her some live rounds, 1 at a time. I didn't get her where she could shoot semi-automatic yet, but I gave her 1 round at a time. Put her out at 7 yards, and she had to hit each drawer that I called out. I said, all right, shoot the middle drawer, second drawer down. Shoot the second drawer down. She shot it. Shoot the bottom drawer. So she managed to hit almost dead center on those drawers. And her last test was to shoot at a bullet hole, and she missed it by about a thumbnail space at 7 yards. And that's pretty good trick. Pretty good skill level for a brand new beginner. And she is 11, 12, I think 12 years old. She'll be 13 next year. So again, thank y'all for watching. If you learned anything and liked any of this, want to share it with your grandkids or with your children, please do. But make sure you tap that little like, subscribe button. And thank you to my Marines. They've always been very kind to me. And show this to your grandkids. And if you don't have any, make some. Just tell your sons and your daughters to get busy and make you some grandkids. So thanks again for watching. Over and out for now.